Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. The jury for our trial out in Boise, Idaho is currently on their lunch break, and you know what trial that is because it gives us a chance to talk to our boots on the ground for an update in the Vallow Daybell trial. Well, you know her as the doomsday cult mom who faces charges in the deaths of her two children, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan and 7-year-old J.J. Vallow. She also faces charges in connection to the death of her husband's first wife, 49-year-old Tylee Daybell. Vallow's husband, Chad Daybell, faces similar charges and will have a trial of his own at a later date. Well, Law and Crime correspondent Gigi McKelvey is outside that Ada County Courthouse as we speak. And Gigi, thank you again for joining us. I have so many questions. Tell us, what is the atmosphere like inside the courthouse today?
Well, we had a big revelation this morning, which is the hair that was found on the duct tape with JJ's body belonged to Lori Vallow, which was a pretty big deal. Now, what surprised me the most is that the defense did not ask the witness, well, since they lived together, is it possible this was just transfer? That wasn't even brought up. They talked about her training and how you extract DNA, but that was one question I thought was missing from that cross-exam.
And did the hair, did they explain how long it was? Was it found pretty securely wrapped in the body, or just did it focus on the hair?
It was found on duct tape, and we know that there were huge amounts of duct tape covering JJ's body from his face to his elbows down to his hands and his ankles. They didn't specify where that was found, but just that it was found on duct tape. So we've been wondering, is there anything tying her to either the murder or the wrapping of the body? And we found out today, at least in some capacity, that hair belonged to her that was found on that duct tape when they were collecting trace evidence after they were doing the autopsy, and just a big revelation. We really thought there was no DNA connection to her whatsoever in this case.
Yeah. Let me ask you, before I ask you what the DNA analyst had to tell the jury besides this bombshell revelation, what was the jury's reaction, if you could see them?
They're just taking notes. They've been a little bit stoic today. We've had a little bit of very technical testimony about timelines with Alex Cox's cell phone on key dates and where it was and where it traveled to and that sort of thing. So they've just been, very focused. We're hearing a lot of different times and just a lot of note-taking with them. Oddly enough, Lori kind of has just been smiling and laughing with her attorneys and writing a lot today. But even when it was announced that DNA, it was 7 trillion, I don't even know the number. It's astronomical, that it was hers. 1 out of 7 trillion chance that it's not hers. She had no reaction. And in fact, about 30 seconds later, whispered something to her attorney, kind of giggled, and started writing on her notepad.
Well, we know that duct tape, the sticky side, is great for getting DNA evidence, taking hair, taking fingerprints. So what else did the DNA analyst have to say about anything else that may have been on the duct tape?
There really wasn't much other than the hair that was focused on today. She went through the procedure of how, due to the fact that there was decomposition with the body, they had to wash that strand of hair. And she went through the process of how they get that hair ready to extract the DNA profile. It was a partial DNA profile, but it came right back to Lori Vallow. So her testimony was over, and then now we have an FBI analyst on the stand who's going through all these location pings as well as purchases that Alex Cox made a key date on October 9th, 2019. The day that Tylee Daybell was shot at by Alex himself.
Okay, so that's another witness on the stand. What purchase specifically did this FBI agent reveal to the jury?
The purchases, he was making frequent visits to a shooting range and a warehouse that has a lot of outdoor ammunition type things. But on the day that Tylee Daybell was shot at, they showed receipts for purchases for some rain pants, a ski mask that has just the eyes and the mouth, as well as some flip gloves, the kind that you can flip over and they hide all your fingers, but you can also flip those back and the tips of your fingers are out so that you can do your fine motor skill stuff. So just very obvious things. If you remember on the 911 call, Tylee Daybell told the 911 dispatcher this person was in a black ski mask. So it's pretty safe to assume that he bought it just that day that Tylee Daybell was shot at in her driveway, just 10 days before she was murdered.
And refresh everybody that Alex Cox is now deceased. He's the brother of Lori Daybell. He supposedly shot at Tammy Daybell and somebody else in this case, right?
Yes, and Brandon Boudreaux. One of the other receipts actually that they found was for a tinting company for the Jeep windows, and that the windows on that Jeep were tinted just before the attempt on Brandon, just days before.
Now, when Lori Daybell was listening to this evidence, we heard how she giggled with the DNA evidence. Was she more attentive? Did she look down? Did she have any interest?
She's really kind of either kept her nose down on her writing pad all day or occasionally speaking with her attorneys. She was really focusing on this FBI witness as he testified about the times and the dates of where Alex was pinged at. But other than that, just really no solemn emotion with her, which is kind of par for the course for the most part with her. The only time we've really seen emotion was when Summer was on the stand, and then obviously the day they showed the very graphic photos of the kids. But seems like another Lori day in the courtroom.
Well, that was a pretty big revelation that we had. First, we have the bombshell DNA, and now we have the timeline testimony that I know you're tweeting about. This one of Alex Cox, her brother, buying something that you would buy if you were going to shoot at somebody to either attempt to kill them or scare them. Any other revelations in the timeline that you could tell us about?
Well, it's just been interesting to see, one of the theories I think that the FBI agent was getting to is perhaps Alex parked down the road just a bit the night that he attempted to shoot Tammy. There's not a lot of places you can go. There's no shoulder. There's a canal there with that just goes right into a ditch. But there was one little parking area because if you remember, after the shooting attempt failed, Alex was seen running around the back of the house. And so another thing they went through were the morning the kids were buried. He went through those timelines of when he was on the property, when his phone actually was in Lori's apartment the night that Tylee and JJ were murdered, and things like that. So it really just puts him in these places where we pretty much know now that really bad things occurred.
Yeah, that's pretty important testimony. So what other witnesses are being called today besides the DNA analyst and the FBI specialist, if you know? And who do you anticipate coming up in the next week of the trial?
We don't really know who's coming up next, but earlier today we did have one witness who briefly talked about interviewing Ian Pulowski, who is the husband of Melanie Pulowski, the niece of Lori Vallow, who was part of this group. And so I think the next big witness that we're all anticipating is Melanie Pulowski. She's Lori was like a mother to her, and she really, seemed lost, especially after Lori and Chad took off to Hawaii. It seemed like she was very codependent on Lori. And so everybody's wanting to see what she has to say. She is a state's witness, which means she is against her aunt. It's been a while since they've seen each other. So I think it's going to be one of those witnesses that everybody's waiting on to see the mood in the courtroom between the two, as well as what she has to say.
All right, Gigi, always incredible insights because you are in that courtroom as our eyes and our ears to give us everything you see from the jury to Lori Vallow Daybell and whether or not the state can prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. So I look forward to talking to you some more. Thank you, Gigi. And we're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll be talking more Lori Vallow Daybell and discuss how close they are, the state that is, to proving their case with their burden beyond a reasonable doubt that she killed her 2 children and she conspired to murder her new husband's now ex-wife because she was dead. So she's an ex-wife. Stay with us on the other side.